Alright, listen up. We are going to dissect the little lies that pretend to be arguments. They show up in conversations like mosquitoes at a picnic, and they ruin the whole meal. I'll tell you what each one looks like, why it poisons discussion, give a quick real-world example, and hand you 3 responses you can use, depending on whether you want to educate, diffuse, or shut the whole nonsense down fast. Keep it cool. Label the fallacy, ask for evidence, and offer a stronger version of the argument if you want to teach. If someone is trolling you, use the short shutdown and move on. Ad hominem is when someone attacks the person instead of the argument. It sounds like petty gossip dressed up as debate. The danger is it signals the arguer lacks substance and just wants to dirty the air. Example: why trust her on policy? She's a college dropout. For a quick call out, say, that's an ad hominem. Give me the argument, not the horoscope on their life. If you want to engage and repair, say, personal stuff aside, what specific evidence supports the policy claim? If you need to shut it down, say, if we're doing character reviews, this isn't the place. Either present evidence or save the insults. Straw man is when someone misrepresents a claim to make it easy to knock down, like punching a scarecrow instead of a real person. It derails honest discussion by attacking a fake version of the view. Example: she wants healthcare reform. She's saying we should abolish medicine. Call it out simply with, that's a straw man. That's not what they said. To engage, ask, restate your position clearly and I'll respond to that exact claim. To shut it down, say, if you can't argue their real point, you're arguing a ghost, not helpful. Red herring is when someone tosses in irrelevant information to distract from the point. The danger is the conversation goes off-road while the real issue stays unresolved. Example: why worry about climate? My neighbor lost his job. Call it out with, that's a red herring. How does your neighbor's job relate to this point? To repair, offer, valid concern about jobs. Let's park it and finish the climate point, then connect them. To shut it down, say, this is off topic. Back to the original claim or we're done. Appeal to authority is when someone treats an authority as final proof, even when the authority is irrelevant or wrong. The danger is it encourages blind faith instead of evidence. Example: Celebrity X says this diet works, so it must. Ask, noted, what's the evidence beyond the celebrity endorsement? If you want to be constructive, say, good to cite experts. Which peer-reviewed studies do you mean? If you want it quieted, tell them, citing famous names is not proof. Show the data, or it's just gossip. Appeal to emotion is when someone manipulates feelings to win an argument. The danger is emotion can override reason and justify bad conclusions. Example: Think of the children, used as the entire argument. Calmly point out, emotion is valid, but it's not an argument by itself. To engage, say, I feel that too. What specific policy or fact would help address it? If shutting down, try, you can't win this by making me feel sad. Provide evidence. False dilemma or false dichotomy is when someone presents two choices as if they are the only options, pushing people into extremes and hiding better alternatives. Example, either we ban X completely or accept anarchy. Call it out with, that's a false dichotomy. Name the middle ground. To engage, ask, what alternatives have been considered? Let's map the spectrum. To shut it down, say, if you can only think in extremes, this isn't a sophisticated debate. Slippery slope is when someone claims a small step will inevitably lead to extreme consequences without proof. The danger is it scares people into rejecting reasonable ideas. Example, if we legalize A, soon B and C will destroy society. Ask, that's a slippery slope. What evidence shows these outcomes are inevitable? To engage, demand, show the causal mechanism and probability, not just fear. To shut it down, say, speculative doom-mongering isn't an argument. Hasty generalization is when someone draws a broad conclusion from a tiny or unrepresentative sample. The danger is fueling stereotypes and making bad decisions. For example, I met 2 rude drivers from City Y, so everyone there is terrible. Ask, that's a hasty generalization. What's your sample size? To engage, suggest, let's look at broader data before we claim it's universal. To shut it down, state, 1 or 2 anecdotes don't make a trend. Post hoc or false cause is when someone assumes that because A happened before B, A caused B. The danger is confusing coincidence and causation and applying the wrong fixes. Example, I wore these socks, then we won. The socks caused it. Call it out with, correlation does not equal causation. How do you prove cause? To constructively engage, ask, what controlled evidence or mechanism supports causation? To shut it down, say, until you show causation, treat that as superstition. Begging the question, or circular reasoning, is when the conclusion is assumed and the premises of the argument just loops. The danger is there is no real explanation. It's verbal treadmill. Example, we are correct because we are never wrong. Point out, that's circular. Why do we accept the premise? To engage, ask, what independent evidence supports your premise? To shut down, say, you can't prove a claim by repeating it as evidence. Equivocation is when someone uses a word with multiple meanings and slips between them. A semantic sleight of hand. The danger is making invalid arguments seem valid by switching definitions mid-flight. Example, only man is rational. No woman is a man. Therefore, no woman is rational. which is a classic wrecking job of definitions. Ask, you just switched the meaning of that word. Which do you mean? To engage, say, define your terms so we're not arguing semantics. To shut down, say, don't play word games. Define your terms or stop. False analogy is when someone compares two things that aren't comparable in relevant ways. The danger is it misleads by suggesting parallels that don't hold. Example, banning books is like burning libraries, so it's obviously evil. Drop a clarifying, nice image, but how are these situations actually similar? To engage, ask them to point out the relevant similarities and differences. To shut it down, tell them, cute analogy, give real evidence instead. Appeal to ignorance is when someone says something is true because it hasn't been proven false, or false because it hasn't been proven true. The danger is turning lack of evidence into proof and reversing the burden of proof. Example, no one proved aliens aren't visiting, so they exist. Say, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, and it is not proof either. To engage, ask, who has the burden of proof here? Show positive evidence. To shut it down, say, you can't win by default. Produce evidence. Bandwagon or appeal to popularity is when something is declared true because many people believe it. Popularity does not equal truth. Crowds can be spectacularly wrong. Example, everyone uses app X, so it must be the best. Call it. Popularity is not a logical reason. Why is it the best? To engage, ask, what objective metrics show superior performance? To shut it down, say, if everyone decides something, that still doesn't make it right. No true Scotsman is when someone redefines a category to exclude counterexamples and make their claim unfalsifiable. The danger is making claims immune to evidence. Example, no true fan would like that song. When shown a fan who likes it, the reply becomes, well, they're not a true fan. Call it out with, that's moving the goalpost. You just redefine the term. To engage, propose. Let's set clear criteria for membership before judging. To shut it down, say, you can't dodge exceptions by redefining terms mid-fight. To quo qui, or appeal to hypocrisy, is when someone dismisses criticism by pointing fingers at the critic. The danger is it avoids the substance of the argument by making it personal. Example, you can't tell me to stop texting and driving. You did it once. Call it out with, that's too quo qui. The truth of the claim does not depend on your moral history. To constructively steer the convo, say, acknowledging hypocrisy doesn't refute the point. Let's focus on the argument. To shut it down, try, irrelevant personal history does not cancel logic. Loaded or complex question is when someone asks a question that presumes a contested fact, trapping the responder. The danger is the trap forces admissions that weren't made. Example: have you stopped cheating on taxes? Which assumes you cheated. Call the trap by saying, that question presumes a fact. Reframe or answer the presumption first. To engage, clarify. Do you mean X? Because that's not established. To shut it down, say, I won't take a trap question. Ask plainly. Special pleading is when someone applies a rule to others while exempting themselves without good reason. The danger is double standards and eroded fairness. Example: that study is flawed, except mine, which is fine. Call it. That's special pleading. Why the exemption? To engage, insist. Either apply the same standard or justify the difference with evidence. To shut it down, say, no exceptions without evidence. That's cheating. Moving the goalpost is when someone changes the criteria after they've been met, so you can never concede. The danger is it makes agreement possible. Example. Impossible. For example, okay, show me X. You do. Now show me Y. Call it. You just moved the goalpost. We agreed on the criteria, remember? To engage, ask, which exact evidence would satisfy you? Stick to it. To shut it down, say, you'll never be satisfied if you keep shifting the target. Fallacy is when someone assumes that because an argument contains a fallacy, the conclusion must be false. The danger is throwing out potentially true conclusions because the reasoning was sloppy. Example: their argument was a straw man, so their conclusion is wrong. Point out, even a bad argument can reach a true conclusion. Let's evaluate the claim on its own merits. To engage, propose, fine. Improve the argument. Does the conclusion still hold with better evidence? To shut it down, say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Evaluate the claim itself. Anecdotal evidence is relying on personal stories instead of systematic data. The danger is bias and noise, overwhelming signal. Example: my uncle smoked all his life and lived to 100. Smoking is safe. Call it. Anecdotes are not data. How representative is that story? To engage, suggest, let's look at the larger studies rather than single stories. To shut it down, say, one story doesn't trump a decade of research. Cherry-picking or suppressed evidence is selecting only what supports your case and ignoring the rest. The danger is misleading conclusions and biased thinking. Example: study A supports this. Ignore studies B and C. Call it. That's cherry-picking. What about the contrary evidence? To engage, say, show all relevant studies, then let's weigh them fairly. To shut it down, say, if you ignore inconvenient facts, you're arguing from bias, not reason. Misleading vividness is overweighting a dramatic example and treating it as typical. The danger is distorted risk perception and poor policy choices. Example: I saw a horror story of X, so it's everywhere. Call it. Dramatic example, but is it representative? To engage, ask, show the base rates and frequency, not just the headlines. To shut it down, say, if you're arguing from spectacle, I'm not persuaded. Gambler's fallacy is believing past random events affect future random events. The danger is poor probabilistic decisions and gambling losses. Example. It hasn't rained in 10 days. It's bound to rain tomorrow. Call it. That's the gambler's fallacy. What's the real probability? To engage, say, find the empirical likelihood instead of guessing patterns. To shut it down, say, luck doesn't keep score like that. Composition and division are sibling errors. Composition assumes what's true of parts is true of the whole, and division assumes what's true of the whole is true of the parts. The danger is false inferences about systems or groups. Example. Every player on the team is elite, so they'll definitely win as a team. Call it. That's a composition or division error. Group dynamics matter. To engage, say, we need evidence about the whole system, not just elements. To shut it down, say, you can't infer system behavior from a single trait. Affirming the consequent is a formal logic mistake that looks like this. If A, then B. Therefore, if B, then A. It's invalid and can yield false conclusions. Example. If it rains, the ground is wet. The ground is wet, so it rained. Call it. Careful, that's affirming the consequent. There may be other causes. To engage, ask, what other explanations could lead to B? To shut it down, say, that's logically invalid. Show a direct causal link. Denying the antecedent is another formal error. People think that if A, then B, then not A means not B. It doesn't. Example. If it's a dog, it has fur. It's not a dog, so it has no fur. Call it. That's denying the antecedent. The logic doesn't follow. To engage, reframe the valid conditional logic or ask for evidence. To shut it down, say, you can't reason like that and expect a correct conclusion. Now, if you want to be surgical about calling these out without destroying the room, do this. Pause. Name the fallacy in a calm voice. People hear labels better than lectures. Ask for evidence. Request clarification. Restate the other person's point in the strongest possible form, and then critique that version. Steel manning makes you sound smarter and less of an asshole. Use an if-then test. Ask what would change their mind. If nothing would, the position is ideological, not evidentiary. Check incentives. Who benefits from this claim? Bias often explains cherry picking. Frame the conversation as hypothesis testing, not a gladiator match. Educate your audience gently when you're in public. Be humane in private. And when someone is trolling or gaslighting, use a short shutdown line and exit the stage. Here are some surgical one-liners you can drop when you catch a fallacy. For ad hominem, argue the claim that's not the person. Strawman, that's a strawman. Try the original argument, not the scarecrow version. Red herring. How is that relevant? Appeal to authority. Cite the evidence, not the name. Appeal to emotion. Feelings noted. Facts next. False dichotomy. Name the missing options. Slippery slope. Show the causal chain. Hasty generalization. Sample size, please. Post hoc. Correlation is not causation. Circular. You're assuming that you're trying to prove. Equivocation. Define your terms. Anecdote does not equal data. Moving the goalpost. We had criteria. Stick to them. People will try to distract, intimidate, or gaslight you with fuzzy logic. You do not need to be cruel to be correct. Be clear, calm, and slightly terrifying in your precision. Point out the fallacy, ask for evidence, and offer a fair alternative. That is how you win arguments and keep your soul intact. Remember this. Changing minds lasts longer when you combine precision with empathy. Shame makes people double down. Curiosity makes people think. But if someone is just here to troll, be done with them. Move on.